Hey guys, welcome to Clockwork Dandy Noodles for another breakdown of Golden Kamuy episode 8 of season number 4. This week's episode was very trippy. I managed to cotton on quite quickly to what was roughly going on. It's really difficult for me to prove it, but I promise in my notes I've written my thoughts as I was going through the episode and it all started to line up. Hard to make you guys believe me, but I did cotton on quite quickly that it was a hallucination of sorts. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. If you are not already, please do subscribe. We are 6 doodlings away from 700 mark. I am trying to aim for 700 by summer, so can you guys help me out? I hope you guys are having a great week and looking after yourselves. This week's episode was fantastic. I am still really eager to know who the guy in the OP is, the long-haired guy with the tattoos. I want to know who he is because he seems important and the face also looks really familiar for some reason. I did go into a bookstore quite recently and he was on the front of one of the books and I was so good. I turned away, I didn't look, and I walked away and I actually bought a different manga instead. Really don't want this anime spoiled. You guys are amazing. I've not actually had any spoilers for Golden Kamuy, so thank you guys so much. I only really have one word for the opening scene and it was just what. Immediately I was like, well, bears don't float, the bear just explodes. Once you've seen the entire episode and you know exactly what's going on, it's his hallucination going back round in a circle. The watcher, when you watch it for the first time, the word really is just WTF. It is interesting to see that the guys are gonna try and work smart, not hard, and somehow they're gonna try and get the two to fight and then take the skins at the same time, which is going to be very interesting. I could see it going wrong. We need to get Hijikata and Tsurumi together and them to fight. Don't know what the outcome's going to be. Sadly, I think Tsurumi would probably win over Hijikata. He's getting quite old, as much as I would rather be on Hijikata's side because kind of get what he's going for. Don't also like his chances very much. But it is also interesting. This episode comes very full circle to season 1, Bears and Gold Panning. Sugimoto nostalgia right there. Season 1 with him in the water trying to find the gold. Also interesting that a bear did show up in that. Thankfully, in this season, the bear is much better. It's animated, it's drawn properly. Oddly enough, the fake bear looks better than the real bear in season 1. I can remember a few of my friends who've tried to watch Golden Kamuy saw that bear and just turned off. They said no CGI bear, and I was so sad. You were missing out on one hell of an anime. I have managed to get one of the guys to go and read the manga instead, who is telling me that the manga is absolutely amazing, which is great. Wonder if maybe the bear that Sugimoto originally saw was maybe his One Kamuy? Maybe it's the reason why they're bringing this episode back. Maybe all of this story is just Sugimoto's obsession with gold or something. Oh my god, I'm thinking too deep, guys. I need to stop. When he mentioned the fact that somebody was making 50 yen a day, nowadays 50 yen is essentially a fiver because I think you've just got to put a decimal point in. I had to remind myself that actually this is like the 1900s, so of course that's going to be a lot of money that somebody is making, and it doesn't surprise me that people are making a lot of money when it comes to gold panning. Golden Kamuy really is the only anime that never fails to make me shiver through cold. Golden Kamuy is just a very cold anime. Cold, snow, bears, and just death comes with Golden Kamuy for me. Gold as well. We haven't seen any gold though, so maybe that's the fact. Maybe the gold, it doesn't exist. Maybe it's all just a One Kamuy and it's a big old trick. Maybe this entire story doesn't exist. But cold hands and the cold water, not a fun mix. I felt cold, I felt uncomfortable seeing them. And then when Shiraishi just dumps his hands in boiling water, I'm like, no, I'm done. I can't watch. It's too much. I'm like, cringe. Can't deal with it. I could also see why panning wasn't really bringing up much of a result compared to the box method, but we don't actually see the box method provide any gold. We just see it bring up platinum. Dr. Stone and Golden Kamuy both dealing with platinum this week is a very nice coincidence. Pretty sure Senku would try and buy that platinum off him in a heartbeat. Interesting to see that platinum in both stories has quite a high status where it's above gold. It's worth more than gold, but I know it's harder to find because gold's more abundant. Platinum is ridiculously hard. In Dr. Stone, it is apparently going to help them make a revival mixture forever. It's like eternal. I don't understand the science completely. I love Dr. Stone, but sometimes I do feel like they're stretching a lot. Trust me, I wrote right here, the bear doesn't exist. I have put Golden Kamuy. It's a bit of a weird thing that the wordplay works out that this is the title. The bird not chirping, there's no footprints in the snow. In the open as well, the bear was levitating and exploding. Bears don't do that, I'm afraid. I started to think maybe this guy was hallucinating. So initially I put it down to hallucination hallucination. I also found it interesting that bears always appear when there's gold. Obviously, this is Golden Kamui. That makes more sense. The title really makes sense this week. There's definitely a link to why bears are maybe seen around gold if it's a Wen Kamui. The full story was that he only heard half a story. He thought bears lurked around the river and they were killing people. The bear is the obsession for gold and it drives them crazy, and in the end they kill themselves. Leaving out a few tiny details really has that much of a bearing on how somebody would interpret the story. Underneath it, I've put the bear isn't real. I think he's traumatized because apparently he heard the story as a kid, which he definitely did. He heard it as a kid, but he only heard half a story, so now he started to obsess about it. Again, I've put the gold and bears are definitely linked. It was easy to see that something just wasn't right. And Vasily, I thought, was doing a literal Titanic when he was drawing the woman in quotes. Poor Vasily having to draw a naked hater. Poor Vasily gets to draw a naked hater. But actually, that works in our favour, which is quite cool, because I wasn't pegging him to be a tattoo. I would love to know how many tattoos in general everyone's now found. It's probably been said. I know Shirumi says that he's got a certain amount. I don't remember how many Hijikata's got. Would just be very interesting to see the picture as a whole. I know out there somebody has pieced together the entire map. Don't want to look at it. I don't want to spoil it. At some point, once it's all done, I would like to look at the final map. There were a lot of moments that just didn't seem right when Hater is crawling around like a bug. The tongue thing as well. Not quite right. Something was definitely wrong. I started to wonder if someone was trying to set them up because it looked like somebody was trying to kill Vasily. So I think maybe as well, Hater set it up to try and catch the bear, and he's thinking that the bear's out there, but he also doesn't realise that the bear is actually him. He is aware, but then it goes in a vicious cycle where he's trying to catch himself, and then that's actually what ends up killing him. Him setting up a trap to kill the bear, which is actually him that ends up killing him. Really, really messed up. This week's episode is just loopy as hell, but very, very clever, and it's a very important story to tell at the core of this episode. I wasn't buying the bear story. About this point, I was like, nah, there's no bear. I am 100% there's no bear. I did put it down to drugs. Maybe there was hallucinations going on, a shared hallucination, because it started to look like Shiraishi was running weird. That's probably because Hater is seeing it from his perspective. Whenever something's in his perspective, things got really, really weird. Initially, I was tricked because we start seeing the bear attacking, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a hallucination, because I wanted to say there was a bear, but it still seemed weird that he was running around. There was no blood on him or anything, and he'd just witnessed somebody's face being clawed off right in front of him, and there's no blood splatter, no nothing. He runs into Sugimoto, and he's still clean, and I was like, no, there's still no bear. I'm not buying it. There's no bear this episode. Then we see Vasily's drawing, and that literally tells us absolutely everything. It's all down to the one person. It's all Hater. There's no other people. And when Sugimoto asks him, who are these people you're talking about? Oh my goodness, that was really weird. And it never actually occurred to me when they're all in the river, the other characters are shunning him for telling him the truth. How dare you tell these outsiders this, this and this. Sugimoto and gang don't actually react. They don't actually react to the other characters, which is very, very clever. It would be an episode where if you watched it twice, you'd get a different meaning from the second time round. Very, very lucky to these guys that he actually has a tattoo. I do wonder if this tattoo has actually been collected by either Shirumi or Hijikata. I guess if Shirumi had it, he would be dead. Maybe Hijikata's seen it, who knows. It's very interesting because we get the overlaying truth where you've got the reporter dude, he's telling the other guy about this man he met in jail who had a tattoo. He then explains that he had multiple personalities, and I was like, oh, this is so clever because you're explaining what is actually going on. Possible that he maybe killed a bear or something. I don't know if at some point he did kill a bear, but we know that he led a bear to kill his family. I was thinking that maybe he was being haunted by guilt and it was all starting to get to him, and obviously he's definitely not quite there in the head. It did seem to be cycling. I did wonder if he had dissociative disorder. Maybe he does, because there seems to be a lot of different people inside him that all have their own personalities, even their own voices, their own backstories, so it does kind of fit. But it seems to be a never-ending cycle. Attacks people when the bear starts to win, and then the bear explodes and he goes back to being this man again. If he had killed, say, Sugimoto, he would have gone back to being normal, and he would have been upset because he'd been like, oh my god, this guy has died. There's definitely a bear out there, and he's died via a bear, and he doesn't realise that he's the bear. The most gross thing is the fact that he's a cannibal. It's almost a good thing that he ends up being killed by his own traps, because he definitely seemed very, very strong, and I was very worried that he was going to do damage to Sugimoto, who's already got, I think he's got a wound to the head that I'm worried about. I know he's immortal. That's the spiel anyway, but we know that no man's really immortal. At some point, Sugimoto's luck's going to run out. It's just when. Sad, because he ended up killing his own family. He ended up being haunted by it all and going into this big old loop where he probably didn't actually know what was real at any point of the time. But it does make me wonder, because it's all over the idea of gold, the fact that your lust for gold is what ended up getting you killed, and it still makes me wonder about the whole story. Now, it did start with the bear in the water, and then Sugimoto kills the bear, and then he meets his Sirapa, and it all starts there. One Kamui, maybe I'm thinking about it too literally. It's a nice little full circle moment, because Sugimoto still doesn't find any gold. May or may not have been a bear this time. There's definitely not a bear this time round, but we don't know about the first time round. A very important message at the end of the day. It's very important that you tell the full story. Don't skip out on little bits, because it could be the difference between somebody getting the true meaning or somebody learning a bad meaning and getting a completely wrong impression from a story and letting it ruin or consume their lives. A gold obsession ends up killing everybody around it. I love the fact that you've got Sarumi, Hijikata and Ogata in the middle. I still don't think Ogata wants that gold. I think he just wants to see the world burn. I personally don't think he has any use for it. He's not really shown any interest. I think he only wants it because he knows other people wants it. Question mark on that one. He's the only character who I just have no idea what the hell he wants. Good old Shiraishi at the end has learned absolutely nothing from this cautionary tale. Still wants to know where the gold is. He's begging Hayata to come back and tell him. Shiraishi, my dude, just stop. Just give it up. Just give it up. We love you for being down in your luck. That's what makes you you. Never stop being you, Shiraishi. But thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. This episode was absolutely wild. And do you think that the bear in episode 1 was real? I want to believe that it was, because I'm now worried that Sugimoto's gonna end up ruined by his obsession for the gold. Is he really obsessed with the gold? I know he really wants to find it, but I think he wants to find it to protect his Sirapa. We will have to find out. I will see you again next week. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.